Welcome to the Phil Vischer Podcast, thoughtful Christian conversation from a slightly warped perspective. And now, your host, Phil Vischer.
Hey there, welcome back to the show. I'm Phil Vischer. This is the Phil Vischer Podcast. I am here with Skye, JETHANI.
Hi, Phil.
Hi, and Christian. No.
Hi, Phil.
No.
Oh, that wasn't a very good impression.
That was not bad.
Not bad, okay.
Not bad. It's our old friend Drew Dyck, back
Yes.
from the godless Northwest.
Amen.
How's the godless Northwest?
Well, it's especially godless once I leave.
And here comes the theme song. What, do you want to say something, Skye?
I wanted to comment about his glasses again.
Yeah. Well, only the
My
people
hipster
that are
glasses?
watching can see
Well,
the hipster glasses.
Is it like
If you're listening, just imagine the thickest,
Yeah.
blackest
when
hipster
you get
glasses.
off get off the plane in Portland? That's what they give you.
Yeah, it's-
like in
It's
Hawaii.
like a lay in Hawaii.
Exactly,
Exactly.
yeah.
Hey, it's a podcast. What do you know? Hey, it's a podcast. And we got video. Hey, it's a podcast. So lend an ear. The Phil Vischer Podcast starts right here. We'll talk to Skye
Hola.
and Drew. You knocked me. I didn't realize you were bilingual. That just knocked me off.
Mm-hmm.
And Drew Dyck too.
Ola? Follow
We
suit.
got no Christian, but Drew's here for you. Hey, it's a podcast, so lend an ear. The Phil Vischer Podcast starts right here. The Phil Vischer Podcast starts right here.
One day I'm going
Nice.
to go all Animal House on that ukulele.
One day, and that'll be the last day you ever eat solid food.
That's a threat.
Thank you.
That's ominous, yes.
So you're living in Portland now.
I am living in Portland, man.
And how do you
I'm
like
living
it?
the dream. Portlandia,
How do you...
you know? Unfortunately, I'm too old to retire.
Moving from the Middle West,
Yes.
the Upper Middle West,
Yeah.
to the Pacific Northwest.
It's been a transition.
They both have West in them, so they're
That's
pretty
true.
similar.
Other than that, no. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
That's where the similarities end. No, it's a little different than like Wheaton, okay?
Yeah.
You know, because
Wheaton,
Wheaton, you go
Portland.
to a restaurant and people bow their heads to pray, and
yeah.
there might be Christian music playing on the. Yeah. Anyway, that's a little different than Northwest.
That doesn't happen in Portland?
No, it's Paganville. So,
Okay. So do you find yourself passing out a lot of tracts?
naturally, Jack Chick tracks, you know,
Yes. the
that all
best
end with
tracts.
the demons pitching people into hell.
Yeah,
No, I'm not going
No.
the tract route.
Okay. Did you find a good church? Do you have a good
Yes.
church?
Yes.
Okay, do you want to give a shout
Yeah,
out to
to
your church?
Colossae.
What?
Colossae is the name of the church. Doesn't that sound kind of cool?
Okay,
It's in the Bible,
like
Phil.
the Colossus of Rhodes?
Not exactly.
The Colossae from
Colossae.
the Colossians.
Colossians.
But I don't know of other churches that actually name themselves after biblical books.
You're right.
Or
That
letters.
is-
Like
that
you,
is,
you don't go to Philippi.
No, and you wouldn't want to be the Corinthians.
I go to Romans.
It would be entertaining though.
You would.
I go to Romans Baptist.
Ooh, First Romans Baptist Church.
Lamentations Methodist. I don't
Colossae.
think that's going to catch on.
Colossae. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Chuck Bomar is the pastor there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. That's
Good-
and
good
how
church.
big?
Not huge. It's
not-
big for Portland because it'd be
Yeah.
almost 1,000 people, I'd say.
Okay, that's
a
big.
big-
That's pretty big.
That's a big
yeah.
church.
Yeah.
So did they have to like bus people in? How did you find that many Christians in Portland?
Well, they're all very hipster. So this is where I'm trying to fit in, right, with my cool glasses and stuff. But it's tough because it is pretty hip.
Have you changed your diet?
Yeah, more voodoo donuts.
Oh, I know Voodoo Donuts.
Voodoo Donuts?
I've been to Voodoo Donuts.
Yeah,
Christian
so that's
eat voodoo donuts?
that's a good question.
Without comment?
Man,
It
I think
actually-
that's a whole podcast.
It's not
We
exactly.
didn't want to go down that road.
It's not the kind of donut place you want to bring your kids.
No.
What's voodoo, Daddy?
Oh, dear.
They're very how would you put it?
Suggestive donuts?
Actually, yes.
Yeah.
What's their slogan?
I don't think
know.
I want to know.
It's something about the whole.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not the kind of place you
Lord
want to
Not
go.
a family-friendly
No.
Christian
Okay.
establishment.
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
Speaking of things you shouldn't be eating,
That was a nice segue.
thank you very much.
They do have a wonderful bacon maple donut, however.
Drew has flown in from
Good for you,
Portland
too.
with a couple of stories that he wanted to discuss because they're near and dear to his own heart.
This is an important one.
The first one could easily take the whole hour, but we can't. We have to fight against it. A cheese glut is overtaking America.
A cheese glut.
Let's just stop and let that. Not cheese gut, which is also overtaking America, but a cheese glut.
We have too much cheese.
America has built up a glut of cheese so big that every person in the country would need to eat an extra 3 pounds this year to work it off.
I think that's pretty doable.
You need to eat
Yes.
an extra, no, not 3 pounds, an extra
Yeah,
3
I still
pounds
think it's pretty
on top of what you normally eat.
I think it's doable.
to work off your cheese glut and put it on your cheese gut.
Think about 3 pounds spread over 365 days. That's not a lot of cheese.
If we
I
exchange
can do that in a week. Okay, when I saw this story, you know what I
Yeah.
did? I slammed my laptop shut. I stood up and I said, I am ready to do my part.
Really?
I will fight the cheese glut.
And then you went for pizza or you just straight cheese?
Well, then I flew out here and I'm
Just
going to
straight
eat
cheese.
deep dish.
Okay, and then you can drive up to Wisconsin
but here's
and buy it in bulk.
And to show you how committed
Yeah.
I am,
Yeah.
I'm lactose intolerant. That doesn't stop me because I'm a trooper.
Wow.
well, yeah.
Were you
'cause
lactose?
Your wife's the one who's going to pay for it.
Were you lactose intolerant before you moved to Portland, or is that something they give you
No,
at
no.
the border?
It is kind of trendy to be like it's
Yeah.
better to be gluten intolerant, but
Oh, yeah.
but I
and,
know
and, conservative
I
intolerant.
was lactose intolerant before it was cool. Let's put it that way.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
But that doesn't stop me.
So
Like I
how
said,
do
I'm a
okay.
trooper.
What's your favorite way to consume cheese? Deep
Ice
dish
cream.
pizza?
Well,
ice
lactose
cream.
is yeah.
You said ice
no, I
cream.
know. I'm sorry.
You put
but,
cheese on your ice cream?
But no,
There is cheese flavored ice cream in Asia.
And at Voodoo Donuts. But we
Perhaps.
don't want to go there.
No, okay, sorry for cheese. I was on lactose. For cheese, definitely deep dish,
Pizza.
Chicago style. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got converted while I was out here. So.
Okay.
What is the explanation for the cheese glut?
Yeah.
You
sorry,
want to
we
know
should-
why we have a cheese glut?
I do.
Skye turning into a cheese gut? Because international sales of cheese, American cheese, were very high. Prices were high. The whole world wanted more of our cheese.
Mm-hmm.
And then conditions changed. The dollar got stronger, which made cheese exports more expensive.
So this is all currency fluctuations.
In the meantime, American cheese farmers that grow cheese,
they don't grow cheese, Phil.
American cheese farmers had planted more cheese than ever before. No, they bought more cows. They expanded because times were good. We always do that.
Oh, yeah.
Can't we just?
We never moderate. The
Yeah, but-
times are good.
Isn't this a cheese bubble, really?
It's a cheese bubble.
Yeah.
Can't we just move some of those cows over into hamburgers? Like why isn't this a fluid commodity?
Redirect.
Yeah.
I've got good news, cow, and I've got bad news. The good news is we've solved the cheese glut. The bad news
I think I probably just
is
offended everybody in Portland
You're
too.
moving to a
Yep.
different part of the
Yeah,
farm.
definitely.
Get this. America's dairy farmers are expected to produce 212 billion pounds of milk this year. This year. 212 billion
Those are numbers that are so big they mean nothing.
pounds of milk.
It's
Getting
like Carl
cramps just listening
Sagan.
to that.
If you put that milk end to end, it would be a lot of milk running all over your kitchen. Commercial cold storage freezers held a record-breaking 1.2 billion pounds of cheese at the end of March. We have 1.2 billion pounds of cheese frozen right now, like Walt's head, ready to be woken up when we find a cure for lactose intolerance.
I'm sure there are cheese-deprived people around the world that would benefit from those calories.
Yeah, but can they pay for it? Nope, sorry, it's going to stay in our freezer. No money, no cheese gut.
No cheese for you.
Okay, what I'm really waiting for, Americans, you know how much, how many pounds of cheese does the average American eat in a year?
Oh, man.
I have no idea. 10.
I said guess.
No,
10.
22.
36. 36 pounds.
I think Wisconsin probably throws that off
true.
a little
With
bit,
the
the
curds.
statistic, right? They're north of the cheddar
they eat
curtain.
36 pounds just inserted inside bratwurst.
Right.
Just the cheese in the bratwurst. Okay.
Man.
So, Drew,
Yeah.
what's the Christian application of this?
Yeah, why'd you send us this story?
If you can't see it, it's so obvious I'm not even going to say.
I think I know.
Yeah.
Does this have something to do with like the loaves and the fish?
Yeah.
Like-
we need a reverse
Blessed are the
miracle.
cheesemakers.
We need a reverse miracle. the Monty Python.
It's a Monty Python reference.
Yes. What's so blessed about the cheesemakers? Yeah.
They've got a glut.
We need a reverse miracle. We need someone to stand up and say, we're going to take this billions of pounds of extra cheese.
1.2 billion pounds of frozen cheese.
Instead of multiplying it like the loaves and the fishes,
I have an idea.
we need to cut it down.
We can build Donald Trump's wall with it.
Hey, that's a good idea. Just
If you want into this country, you have to eat your way in.
Yeah.
And we'll attract all of Mexico's mice, unfortunately, which may not solve our problem.
No, I think America's up to the challenge. I do, for the extra cheese.
It'd be nice to come back to this story in a year and see if there's still a cheese glut or if we've overcome.
Yeah, and now it's set a new high water mark,
right.
and we need that much cheese going forward.
Yeah, do we establish a new normal?
Yeah.
Is it now, I can't live on less than 39 pounds of cheese a year because I've been to the promised land and it's cheesy.
It's flowing with
It is flowing
milk
with
and cheese.
milk and cheddar. The next story that Drew said.
Oh, my.
Oh, man.
Okay, thanks for coming, Drew.
Yeah, exactly.
You look really sharp.
People are going to be really looking forward to my next appearance.
You look very sharp.
Sharp, get it?
Separate
Sharp. Ooh,
bathrooms.
cheddar sharp.
Separate bathrooms by religion. Oklahoma opens new front in transgender debate.
What?
Okay, Oklahoma lawmakers have just introduced
idea.
a bill. Have you heard of the bathroom wars, the bathroom bill wars, this bathroom stuff that's going
Yeah,
on? There's some bathroom stuff going on.
Apparently.
That doesn't involve the cheese
Apparently.
glut.
Well, it might, because you eat that much more cheese.
Okay, Oklahoma lawmakers have introduced a bill that would allow students to request on religious grounds. This is maybe the first time bathrooms and religion are being put together in legislation. On religious grounds that their public schools provide a bathroom or other facility that bars transgender people.
That is never going to happen.
It's the Senate bill was introduced on Thursday. It defines sex as the physical condition of being male or female as identified at birth by an individual's anatomy, and then says any student can request, that's the international for any student, can request a religious accommodation from a school for restrooms, athletic changing facilities, or showers that are exclusively used by people with the anatomical sex at birth that is similar to their own.
But you cannot make a theological or religious case for that being a requirement. Like, for example, a Muslim could make a religious case that I need 5 times a day an accommodation so that I might pray, because it is clearly a part of their historic faith.
You're judging my religion. Now you're putting the government in the position of judging the validity of my religion.
But tell me what religion says you can't go to the bathroom with somebody whose sexual identity is not the same as your
My
own?
brand new one, Baptist anti-transgenderism.
Okay.
Does it matter? The government can't define religion, so what does it matter?
Yeah, but they're not that dumb. Here's the solution. Here's the
You
solution.
heard it right here. Skye says the government, not that dumb.
Well, I'm just saying they're not as dumb as what you're saying.
Oh, okay.
The simple solution to all of this
Yeah.
is we just need to redesign every public school in the country so that every student's locker also has a built-in bathroom.
Genius.
I thought mine did.
Man, you thought getting stuffed in a locker was bad before.
There you go.
No.
Get stuff in a
Okay.
locker and a
You know
wet
what
willy
I
at the same
thought,
time.
though,
Yes.
in fairness, I didn't read
Yes.
this article before I sent it to you. But
Wait,
the
you sent
title,
me an article that you hadn't even read?
not completely. But the headline got me all excited because I thought there were going to be bathrooms just for Christians.
Well, that's essentially what they're trying to do.
Christian
Yeah, well,
bathrooms.
I mean-
So we've got right now, we have, male bathroom, female bathroom, and we're saying the federal government is saying male bathroom also means transgender male, female bathroom also means transgender female. Now in Oklahoma, you can say, you need to build a separate bathroom that's male, only anatomically male bathroom.
Okay, yeah, but
Not self-reporting, not, gender.
but that's not a Christian.
How do you even label that?
se.
What does the sign look like?
A cross
A penis.
above the door.
You'd have to just put, this is what...
You'd have to get very
This is what must
anatomically
be
correct.
on your body
Yeah.
to enter this bathroom.
Here's the going back to the root of all of this. This is the
Yeah.
part that I just cannot get my brain around.
Okay, go.
There have been transgender people for a long time.
Yeah, but...
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe
Wait.
2014.
No, okay, they've been around for a long time in different cultures and different ways and different things. What bathroom do people think they've been using all this time?
I think
You have
outside in the
unknowingly been
woods.
going and sharing men's bathrooms with transgender men your whole life.
I don't-
You
but
just didn't know it.
isn't
How
the
many
fear,
times
though-
do you think I have been in Wheaton, Illinois? How many times do you think I've been in a bathroom with a transgender man?
I don't know. But you
Neither do
lived in
can't
Chicago
recognize
for a
them if they do
while.
a good job.
You lived in Chicago for a while.
I did. I never went to the bathroom though. It was too risky.
I could believe that about
Okay.
you.
That's
That's
actually.
why I was
Yeah.
always carrying a thermos.
No, it wasn't coffee in that.
That's gross.
But
That's
they
kinda
never
gross.
saw me drink.
Okay, my point is,
Yeah.
the transgender men and women have been using the bathroom that they identify with forever. And this has never been a problem. It's
But
never
isn't
been
the
an
fear
issue.
now that if you say you can use whatever bathroom you choose, then the creepers, not
it's-
transgender
this is
people,
about creepers.
but they get in on this and go, hey,
Right.
Well, they could do that anyway. They
That's
could
true.
dress like a woman and go in a
but-
woman's
but-
bathroom.
But okay, here's the
you
argument
don't even need
against.
to dress like a woman.
This
But you need to
argument-
identify as a woman. That's the whole point. What you identify
Hey,
with.
you guys
I guess
can't
so.
get into a conversation that doesn't include me.
Sorry.
I did kind of turn my back on you.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm on the outside looking in. Well, that's all the time we have for this week. Come back again when I'm in control of the show. This argument played out in my driveway over the weekend as we were spreading, not manure, although that would have been appropriate, mulch. Smells like manure, on our planting beds. And my son was arguing on the side of it's ridiculous to be upset about this. My wife was taking the point of the mothers who are concerned about their daughters and potential assault. And so it was interesting because I was watching my own family. It's like, that's ridiculous. It's never happened. Here's the only tricky part is that if you are... There's no standard for who is transgender. So like what Target is saying, for example, is you can use whatever bathroom or dressing room you self-identify with. And there's no standard for that. You don't even have to present as a woman if you're a man. You don't even have to be dressed as a woman if you were born a man. So basically, as a man, you can just walk into the
Because you can
women's
say,
dressing room.
how dare you define what a woman looks
Right,
like.
exactly. I'm transgender. I am transgender, but you're not presenting as a woman. That is narrow thinking. And I've heard LGBTQ, et cetera, activists argue that point that the next thing we need to get over is the notion that a transgender person has to, like if you're a transgender woman, that you have to dress like a woman, because that's the gender stereotyping.
Sure.
Now, so a guy that looks just like Drew Dyck here with his glasses and his suit and tie could walk into the Target changing room and peer over the door at your daughter, and what could anyone say? He'd say, I'm transgender. My name is...
Frankly, if a woman
Gorilla.
is in the bathroom and peers over the door at my daughter, I'm not going to be happy either.
You're not in there. Why are you in there? How do you know? No, but if the female attendant says, "Hey, can I get you anything?" and they look over, I guess that's guess that's poor form.
I think our
It causes problems.
I understand.
That's why people are upset.
I think
Skye.
our culture has significant confusion around all things gender and sex related right now. I'm not endorsing this free for all of everything.
Okay.
I think there's problems with it, but I'm not sure this is the hill that Christians want to die on. I'm not sure this is the battle that is worthy of the uproar it has provoked.
This is a proxy war, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of these things, we keep hopping from one topic to another, and it's like,
What's it a proxy
for? Proxy war. No, man.
Fighting something
When we were
in
fighting, back in
case
the
of
Cold
something
War,
else. Yeah.
we're like, hey, Russia, we don't want to fight and destroy each other.
Right.
Let's fight other wars.
Let's make a mess in Cuba.
Exactly.
Or Vietnam,
That's
or
kind of like a proxy
Korea.
war, right?
Okay, so this is a proxy war
for a deeper
Culture war.
underlying cultural, ideological conflict, right? And so
Is America the America we knew, or the America that they want it to be? Is it
I don't know.
our
It's like the
America or
progressive
their
vision
America? Yeah.
versus maybe the Judeo-Christian.
Yeah.
Well, and it's clear that the battle over same-sex marriage was lost last summer with
Yes.
the Supreme Court decision. So
Yeah.
now it's
So
suddenly
let's
a
hop out of
battle.
this
It's
one.
over
Right.
bathrooms.
And I promise you, next month it'll be something different, right?
Right.
What do you
and
think
so
it'll be?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm
What do
not
you think
sure.
it'll be next month?
I'm not sure.
Girls' bikes.
Yes.
Can boys ride
Dudes riding
girls'
around on
bikes?
girls on
Yeah.
chicks' bikes, and
Yeah.
that's going to cause an uproar.
That
And I know
bar,
what side I'm going to be
that
on.
missing bar.
Yeah.
I never understood that. I always thought the girl's bike probably would be more appropriate for the boy anyway.
Because all girls wear dresses when they ride their bikes.
I'm more thinking about anatomy.
Because you can't wear a dress on a boy's bike with the bar up so high. It's inappropriate.
Never thought of that.
Really?
Anyway.
That's why you ride a horse side saddle if you're
of course.
a girl.
Yeah, how could I miss
Because
that?
your dress has to stay on one side of the horse.
All those people riding horses around side saddle. Now it makes perfect sense.
Okay.
Anyway, I can't get excited about these things because I do see them as proxy wars. It's going to move on, and like newsflash, we've lost. I'm sorry to say, right? I mean, can we admit that?
depressing.
I mean, with gay marriage, which was a bigger one than transgender bathrooms,
Right.
It's over. It's hard to join a proxy war
Can't we
that
just
we're losing.
keep fighting smaller and smaller and
Exactly.
progressively more pointless battles?
Fewer and fewer things at stake, and so it becomes more and more angry and
And then the people
acrimonious.
left fighting are the ones who are the most strident. So they get more animated about the least significant things, and then it just deteriorates into madness.
Yeah.
Do you have a solution, either of you?
Flee to Canada.
I actually do.
You're Canadian.
I know, so I can.
You can't say that without it. No.
The solution is to get my new ebook.
Oh, yes!
And go read it in the changing room at your local Target.
It's called The Voting Booth.
Oh,
Well,
the
that does
changing
sound
booth.
bathroom-esque.
Change it to changing booth quickly.
I should do that.
Yeah,
Changing
that would
booth.
be
It could,
totally-
it could easily be set there.
Yeah.
So that it should. By the time this podcast goes live, it should be out, available on Amazon. The Voting Booth. It's all about how to live faithfully as a Christian in a post-Christian culture, and it's rather entertaining, I think, because it's not a typical like, straight read. But it has to do with what
dialogue.
battles do we fight, and why does this make sense, and why are bathrooms? How do you love people who are very different?
So when
than
you put the transgender bathroom issue through the voting booth filter, it doesn't hold up very well.
Don't tell them. You got to get the book.
Sorry.
Yeah, you gotta get the book.
It's right in the book. Okay. Awesome. I got a big story that I want to get to.
That was a late buzz there. Ding.
For the book. Oh, look, I did too. Oh, yeah. A text from the director. I forgot to tell you, we forgot our commercial message. This show, the Phil Vischer Podcast, is brought to you by you, our loyal viewers and listeners who support us on Patreon. Go to patreon.com, Patreon. Jason will put it up on the screen, but if you're listening, not watching, I'm spelling it for you. Patreon.com/Phil Vischer. That's me. And you can support. It cost a lot of money to fly Drew all the way here from Portlandia.
Feed him cheese.
And buy him those infernal glasses. So we could use your support. And for like 150 people that have supported us so far, thank you very much. We're very grateful.
It's awesome.
Skye's going to get a change of clothes. Awesome. It's
And the
all
bath
good.
salts. Don't forget about the bath salts.
Bath salts made from the sweat of his scalp. Looking forward to that. Okay, and now back to our show. Big story. This will make people angry, and that's really what the podcast is all about. It's making people angry.
Right.
Fear and rage.
Fear and rage. Do you know who Andrew Sullivan is?
We're besties. No, I know who he is.
He's a conservative columnist. What did he used to write for?
Is he conservative?
He was on
supposed to
he was
be-
on the
he
Daily
bills himself
Beast,
as a
and he
conservative.
wrote the Dish. He had the blog called The Dish.
He wrote The Dish on the Beast.
Yeah, something like that.
I'm following perfectly.
Yeah.
And he was also on Stephen Colbert fairly frequently
Yeah.
as a guest.
He was he's a gay man,
Yeah.
Catholic, conservative.
A gay Catholic conservative.
Yes, and he was
with
one
a
of the
beard.
very early.
What bathroom does he use?
He was one of the very early advocates for gay marriage, which makes him an interesting voice on all this because he's
Yeah.
also a Republican and he's conservative generally in his politics.
It's insane.
It is. He kind of violates all the preconceived.
It's no wonder he doesn't
stereotypes.
explode. It's just like walking through life just shaking so much under tension.
I obviously I don't agree with him on the marriage stuff, but I found him to be a really thoughtful commentator on all kinds of
Brilliant
things.
guy.
He's a very thoughtful guy. So he wrote a piece, a very long piece, if you want to read it. It's quite long in New Yorker magazine or The New Yorker. Was it in the New Yorker?
No, I think it was New York Magazine.
New York
New York
magazine.
magazine, yeah.
The New York magazine.
Right.
Not the New Yorker magazine. Or the Yorkie magazine, which is about dogs. The headline is "America has never been so ripe for tyranny." Ooh, see, that's a headline.
That is.
You want to get people to click? That's good.
I like the word ripe.
Yeah, tyranny. It'd be better if it was like,
With all this cheese, America has never been so ripe.
There you go.
Different headline. Okay, here's the subtitle. Democracies end when they are too democratic. And right now, America is a breeding ground for tyranny. Okay, he starts out by quoting Plato. Plato in his Republic gives an account where Socrates is talking about democracy and is pretty clear on one sobering point, that tyranny is probably established out of no other regime type of government than democracy. Bum.
I don't fully agree with that, but fine.
Through history, though, it's fairly common.
Well, there's been terrible tyrants who came out of monarchies and...
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Monarchs are they're good people.
Well, the thing with a monarch is you either go really good or you go really bad.
Yeah, right.
There's not a
whole lot of middle ground.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so Socrates probably didn't live long enough to see, Henry VIII. Mm-hmm. At least very much. Maybe when he was a kid, but not to full adulthood.
Phil was not a history major.
Democracy, for Plato, was a political system of maximal freedom and equality where every lifestyle is allowed and public offices are filled by a lottery. And the longer a democracy lasted, Plato argued, the more democratic it would become. Its freedoms would multiply, its equality spread. Deference to any sort of authority would wither. Tolerance of any kind of inequality would come under intense threat, and multiculturalism and sexual freedom would create a city or a country like, quote, a many-colored cloak decorated in all hues.
sound familiar?
That's Joseph.
Joseph is a product of democracy
In his Technicolor Dreamcoat.
in Greece. Okay, this rainbow flag polity, Plato argues, is for many people the fairest of regimes, but it is inherently unstable. As the authority of elites fades, as establishment values cede to popular ones, views and identities can become so diverse as to be mutually uncomprehending. What did he just say? Basically, the more democratic ultimate democracy is everyone's vote is absolutely equal in saying what's going to happen. That there's no moderating factors at all. It is just put it to a popular vote. Everything is determined by popular vote. And Plato was saying, in the end, when you let that go to its ultimate extreme, it rejects all forms of traditional authority. So no one has any more right to speak to any issue than anyone else. Because when he uses the word the elites, and that actually comes up a lot in this article, that the elites lose influence, the elites lose power. Now, as someone who grew up in the culture wars of the 80s, 70s, and 80s, my initial reaction is, that's awesome.
Right, down with the elites.
Right, because the elites are evil. But then when you look at the whole scope of history, you realize one of the most significant elites in history, in Western history, is the church.
Yeah.
It's clergy were the elites that were saying, no, this is right, this is wrong, in most Western cultures. And they were also one of the first ones to get overthrown, to get kind of kicked out in the name of advancing democratic equality.
But here's the piece. I don't think Andrew Sullivan really gets into this in his piece, and I'd say it's the missing quality is in Western democracies, particularly those advanced in Northern Europe, England, and then eventually the United States. No, we did not have a monarchy, or we didn't even have a church that was really dictating the boundaries of the society. What we had were virtuous people. This is Os Guinness talked about this in his book, The Free People's Suicide.
Yeah.
Is that when virtue is, in order to be truly free as a democracy, you need to have people who self-govern themselves.
Yeah. Or else you need more laws.
Or else you have to have that external law. So if you have a virtuous people who have that internal governor, then they can be empowered to make decisions because you know that the decisions they make will be within virtuous boundaries.
But even in that regard, which the founding fathers were really big on, they also set up all sorts of boundaries against popular, will and kind of popular rage.
But the reason for that was they defined virtue very narrowly and thought women, number one, cannot be virtuous. Uneducated people cannot be virtuous. Slaves cannot be virtuous. It goes on. So who did that leave? The truly virtuous were the white land-holding men. Now, I think we'd all agree that that was too narrow a vision of virtue, that there were many people in society who can be virtuous. And that's really when you get the advancement in the 19th and 20th century of democracy in our country. But I think Sullivan's point is now we're at a place of total democracy and everything's falling to pieces. And he blames it on democracy itself, whereas an Os Guinness or some other commentators would say, no, it's not inherently a flaw in democracy. It's a flaw in our lack of virtue. Our character as a people has declined, and we're now seeing the fruit of that.
Yeah, that makes sense, too, because he talks about getting to a place where equality is supreme, and there's no way to adjudicate between different behaviors, beliefs, right?
Right.
And like you said, or like he says, there's no authority to which you show deference.
Right.
And if you had a virtuous people, they would do that, by themselves. So that's
Plato
part of it.
said, patriarchy is dismantled, family hierarchies are inverted. Quote, and this is a quote from Plato: a father habituates himself to be like his child and fear his sons, and a son habituates himself to be like his father and to have no shame before or fear of his parents. In classrooms, as the teacher is frightened of the pupils and fawns on them, so the students make light of their teachers.
It sounds like he's been in my house.
Students making light of teachers is a sign of the end of Western civilization. Does that ever happen?
Not in America.
It's funny when you watch a movie that's set in like a high school, an urban high school, the caricature of an urban high school in the movies, where it's chaos. It's like Animal House.
Until Michelle Pfeiffer comes in.
Until Michelle Pfeiffer comes in. As opposed to if you watch a schoolroom, in Leave It to Beaver or, where everyone was well behaved and white, and the teacher was complete authority, and we were, his Father Knows Best. So going from Father Knows Best to these, shows that now show, like even Welcome Back Kotter, was very different than Father Knows Best, and Kotter could barely hang on for his life. I'm dating myself, but now if you have a show that's set in a high school, even like on the Disney Channel, the teachers are more buddies than authority figures, because
they're usually buffoons.
Yes,
buffoonish.
Self-esteem boosters.
If they attempt to hold on to traditional authority, they're made to be buffoons.
Right.
Yes, yeah.
If they give up their authority and become buddies and cohorts,
then they're the cool teachers.
Then they have a chance.
Then they're the cool teachers. Yeah. And it is when a democracy has ripened as fully as this, Plato argues, that a would-be tyrant...
There's that word, ripened.
Cheese-like. A would-be tyrant will often seize his moment. Now, this is the description from Plato of the would-be tyrant. He is usually of the elite, but has a nature in tune with the time, given over to random pleasures and whims, feasting on plenty of food and sex, and reveling in the non-judgment that is democracy's civil religion. He makes his move by taking over a particularly obedient mob and attacking his wealthy peers as corrupt. If not stopped quickly, his appetite for attacking the rich on behalf of the people swells further. He is a traitor to his class, and soon his elite enemies, shorn of popular legitimacy, find a way to appease him or are forced to flee. I'm thinking of Chris Christie. He pledges above all to take on the increasingly despised elites, and as the people thrill to him as a kind of solution, a democracy willingly, even impetuously, repeals itself. Then Andrew Sullivan goes on to say, I watched frenzied Trump rallies on C-SPAN in the spring and saw him lay waste to far more qualified political peers in the debates by simply calling them names. And when he seemed to condone physical violence as a response to political disagreement, alarm bells started to ring in my head. It was increasingly hard not to see in Plato's vision a murky reflection of our own hyper-democratic times, and in Trump, a demagogic, tyrannical character plucked directly out of one of the first books about politics ever written. Some people aren't going to like that, because it really... a lot of people really like Donald Trump.
Sure.
Have you noticed that?
He's getting some votes.
I think Trump, they need to make a Trump toy where the Play-Doh comes out of his head. Right? Have you seen those Play-Doh
like
heads?
Fuzzy Pumper?
Huh?
Fuzzy Pumper Barbershop?
Is that what it was?
Yeah, where it grows Play-Doh out of his head.
Yeah, that's.
You're saying Play-Doh, not Play-Doh.
Yeah,
Okay, sorry, I'm a little confused.
Because just as I'm listening to you and I hear Trump and Play-Doh, I'm like, there's $1 million idea.
It's right there.
I don't know that.
You're welcome,
that
future millionaire.
Really propels our conversation.
No, it doesn't. So, but yeah, it is kind of creepy that.
Yeah, that description, man. I was already. Of course, I knew it was going to be about Trump, but you're like.
So part of American democracy's stability is owed to the fact that the founding fathers had read their Plato and played with their Play-Doh. To guard our democracy from the tyranny of the majority and the passions of the mob, they constructed large, hefty barriers between the popular will and the exercise of power. Voting rights were tightly circumscribed. The president and vice president were not to be popularly elected, but selected by an electoral college whose representatives were selected by the various states, often through the legislatures, not through the people. Over the centuries, however, many of these undemocratic rules have been weakened or abolished. So he talks about some of the things that have broken this down, and now it's become more popular vote, introduce primaries, popular voting in primaries, and then wanting more outsiders, where the popular will in primaries is to pick someone like a Sarah Palin and not someone like a Jeb Bush. We want people that come in from the outside with pitchforks, not out from the inside with 20 years in the Senate.
Sure. It's the only job in which having experience in the job is like a major negative.
I know. That is interesting how it's become. Then what the 21st century has added to this picture was media democracy in a truly revolutionary form. If late-stage political democracy has taken 2 centuries to ripen, the media equivalent took around 2 decades, swiftly erasing almost any elite moderation or control of our democratic discourse.
So in other words, in the past, like when we were growing up, media essentially served as an elite filter.
Yeah.
It would only allow information or ideas or people a platform who they deemed worthy of it.
There were people in control of the media who had earned the positions of control through experience and education.
Right. And now that's been obliterated because everybody...
Just Twitter it.
Anybody can have a podcast.
Anybody can have a podcast. Thousands of people think they know what they're talking about.
Right.
It's really pretty frightening.
And so
I'd like to announce my candidacy for president, by the way.
You heard it here first.
So essentially the inmates are running the asylum.
Yeah, but people don't like to be told that. Oh, you're saying I'm one of the inmates. That's what you're saying?
I'm not saying anything about you.
I am representing the voice of the people right now. I'm not being myself.
Okay, I got it.
Do I need to talk in an accent to pull this off?
Let's hear your American accent.
No, we're mostly Spanish now. We're like a half a Latino. So, Skye, you're saying, I'm going to be Italian instead. How about that?
He just kind of fluidly moves between different stereotypes.
It's a gift. It's a spiritual gift, really.
You have the spiritual gift of stereotyping.
No, of tongues.
Of tongues, right.
This is what happened to the Pentecost. Everyone, their accents were changing.
It was just their accents.
Yeah, it was just their accents. Willy-nilly. Everyone spoke English, but they spoke it with various accents, depending on where they were from.
Can't wait.
And so the Holy Spirit helped them do really good impersonations.
I would love to have seen you as like a teenager go to some kind of Pentecostal camp where they try to get you to speak in tongues, and you just break into different accents.
Yeah, it's Pig Latin, because they're like Sid Caesar would go entertain people in Europe by doing Pig German, Pig Italian. He would just fake their language and not say anything. I bet you could do that.
And they paid him for this?
You could do that with speaking in tongues?
Oh, yeah, more easily. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
So the people don't want to be told that they're actually a mindless mob.
Right, you don't want to be told that you're an inmate in the asylum. You have a right, and this is
or your voice being heard is somehow a negative.
Right, so it's easy to say, now those people over there, I'm not really sure they should have equal choice. But me,
of course.
No one ever says, I don't think I should be trusted to choose the next president. Well, maybe a couple people have that kind of prescience, but most people, it's like, this is America. We're all supposed to choose, right? So this is where this could get a little offensive, is you're saying I'm not supposed to have a voice in this process?
Well, and that's been largely the story of American democracy over 200 years, is opening, all people are created equal, right? Thomas Jefferson wrote it, but we didn't really behave that way at the beginning, and it's been a 200-year process of bringing more people into that equality.
Right.
Women get the right to vote, freedom for slaves, on and on and on. And now we're in this place of saying transgender, LGBT, all that sort of stuff, they need equal rights and equal dignity. And most people look at that progression and go, this is a good thing.
Sure.
This is how it should be. This is human dignity. The big question, though, and a lot of people probably lack the perspective, is liberal democracy. When I mean liberal, I don't mean liberal versus conservative, but liberal democracy as empowering individuals, and secular democracies that remove religion from the equation. That is a very new idea, and nobody knows if that's really a sustainable civilization. And I've actually been reading a lot of evidence when you look, again, on the scale of thousands of years rather than just hundreds, it says it's actually not a sustainable model for various reasons we could or could not get into.
And it's very vulnerable, which I think is one of Sullivan's points.
Right. So then you come up with electronic media and social media and the web's algorithms all but remove any editorial judgment. And the effect soon had cable news abandoning even the pretense of asking, is this relevant? Or do we really need to cover this live in the rush toward ratings bonanzas, and Ponderosa, the other great steakhouse of the 1970s. What mainly fuels this is precisely what the founders feared about democratic culture: feeling, emotion, and narcissism, rather than reason, empiricism, and public spiritedness. Online debates become personal, emotional, and irresolvable almost as soon as they begin. And the more emotive the candidate, the more supporters he or she will get.
I would say the same thing goes for pastors.
Oh, there we go.
Honestly, Drew, you're in that world.
Pastor.
No, you're right. And you know what? Okay, this is what scares me. Is the same thing that people say about Trump is what people often say about their pastor. He tells it like it is. You know, it's just like he.
If you like your pastor, that is.
Yeah, sure.
What if you don't like your pastor? He doesn't tell it like it is.
Then you leave.
Yeah, right.
Then you leave if he does, and then you say he didn't tell it.
Right.
Or I wasn't fed. That's another one.
You know,
I wasn't fed.
2 weeks ago, we had Russell Moore on the show. He made a very interesting argument that Trump was the equivalent of basically evangelical tent revivalist, or a faith healer.
Yeah.
He had all the marks of that kind of populism, passion, emotion,
Hair.
That's the giveaway right there.
This is why
I could be on TBN, no problem.
This is why I could never be a televangelist or
I know.
I just don't have the hair for it.
It just wasn't in the cards for you, man.
So his conclusion, and you should read this article, it's really worth reading. His conclusion, which is rather strongly worded, going to the end. First of all, he says we should support the Republican establishment that's trying to figure out a way to not have him be their nominee.
But this was written a couple weeks ago.
Yes, it was written a couple of weeks ago. If they have to do something even monkeying with the rules at the convention, rather than saying, hey, you shouldn't monkey with the rules at the convention, it's not the popular will, you should actually say, no, they're trying to prevent something that's far worse. By monkeying with the rules, we should support them.
The problem here, though, is everyone's in favor of populism when the popular sentiment conforms to your own.
Yeah,
sure.
Right.
And everyone's against it when it doesn't. So, for example, for years and years and years, you heard a lot of Christian activists say the courts need to stay out of the gay marriage issue, let people vote on it, because the majority of Americans were against gay marriage.
Right.
Well, now that a majority of Americans are for gay marriage, you hear those same conservative pundits saying, we really need to get a conservative on the Supreme Court so they can overturn the gay marriage thing or whatever. So
that seems a little messed up.
It does, but Andrew Sullivan's essentially making the same point is, okay, Trump's a danger and we need to stop him. We need to support any means necessary for the elites to prevent him from becoming president. But if roles were reversed and the elites were preventing the guy you wanted, you'd be saying these elites need to be put down. We need to allow popular opinion to rise up. We need to have true democracy. So it always
and it's kind of self-defeating in a sense because his thesis is that there's this ever-expanding populism, right? And then at the end he's saying, let's try to put the brakes on this by basically rigging the process. It's not going to work.
It's not going to work
because of what he's so eloquently
the cat is
said.
out of the bag.
Okay, so the founding fathers put certain constraints on voting to prevent just mass uprisings and the mob taking over, and we have largely undone most of those constraints. The question is, can you ever redo them?
No.
Will anyone ever say, okay, I'll give up that right that I was given?
That doesn't go backwards.
Interestingly, that's the core of the argument between so-called liberals and conservatives.
Yeah.
Conservatives accuse liberals of trying to take away my rights. And conservatives or liberals accuse conservatives of being too uncaring or unsympathetic toward what goes on with their neighbors.
Right.
The Second Amendment battle is exactly that.
Yeah.
Right? Well, for public safety, we need to cap guns.
I'm sorry, I need to take away your gun.
Right.
Because it will make it safer for everyone.
Right. And I think a case could be made for that. On the flip side,
How dare you attempt to take away my gun?
Right.
I have a right to have a gun.
Right.
Dead fingers.
Exactly.
Yep.
So that's the central tension. I mean, it goes all the way back to slavery.
Okay, so if we are Christians living you're in Portland, so it's even worse.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. We're in Wheaton.
It's the nanny state thing.
We're
right?
in halfway to the New Jerusalem right now.
You're not far from the kingdom.
In Wheaton. Yeah, the closer you get to Blanchard Hall at Wheaton College, the closer you are to the New Jerusalem. It's cubic. It's covered in gold.
It's got the dimensions, yeah.
Okay. As Christians living in this kind of culture, and you're seeing a kind of a mass uprising, a mass outpouring of anger at the system and, populism, what can you do? Anyone? What do we do? Do you know what I was called last week for the first time in my life?
I can't wait to hear.
Like 3 different times by 3 different people online?
Because of this podcast?
No.
Because of your Trump video?
Yeah. A libtard.
Libtard.
I was called a libtard.
That's a word?
Yeah. It means, yeah. Well, never mind what it means. It involves liberal.
3 different people called you that.
Yeah.
Did they just pick up what someone said it and then the others picked it up in the stream or what?
I don't know. Which is funny because I voted for George Bush twice. I'm kind of embarrassed about that in hindsight of all the wars, but I voted Republican more than I voted Democrat in my life. I voted for Reagan the second time he
Only
ran.
to turn out to be a libtard.
And now I'm a libtard because I'm not in support of Donald Trump.
Okay.
I thought that was interesting.
Hey, man, when Trump gets into power, you're going to be the first one rounded up.
I think Russell Moore.
How about
Russell, yeah, you're right.
what's the opposite of a libtard? How about a conservajerk?
Conservajerk.
I like that. Here's my take.
Yes.
And it's a little simpler than
Help
Andrew
us.
Sullivan's. I think we are slouching toward an idiocracy.
Gomorrah.
Not Gomorrah, an idiocracy.
Okay.
Where people honestly are just getting dumber and dumber, and reality TV is part of it, and they just look and they go, I know that name, Trump. I saw him on a reality show. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
Says the man with the black horn rimmed glasses.
You're getting smarter and smarter.
Yeah,
Exactly.
look at it.
Yeah, so maybe the society.
How many IQ
appearing
points came
dumber
with
and
those
dumber.
glasses?
Well, that was the whole idea.
Didn't Rick Perry try that same trick?
It didn't end well for him.
It didn't work. Well, good luck with that. And here's what, actually, this was kind of the point of my Trump video, that we're making decisions out of fear. We're making decisions because we're afraid of scarcity. We're afraid of, or even the really vague, we're afraid that we're losing. We're losing.
Yeah.
We've all suddenly turned into Charlie Sheen and we want to drink tiger blood and win all the time. And without even being able to define what that means. What do you mean by that?
But also that we make important decisions with our kind of aesthetics, like we want something more extreme, which was part of your Trump video, right? I was waiting for you to make the connection between the nacho-colored cheese and Trump's face. That's what I thought it was going to be.
Several people said that.
Okay,
that was brilliant, but that was too easy.
Yeah.
I was going for a much more nuanced.
The biggest lie every politician tells in every election is this.
Yeah.
The American people are smart. Wow, man, this is going to be.
Here's the
sorry.
reality.
Yeah.
Here's the reality. I have to teach this to my kids, and it confuses them. Half of Americans are of below average intelligence. That is just
a safe,
you just have to
assumption.
accept that as reality.
And the average may be getting lower and lower.
Well, that's
When you go generationally.
now.
Sure.
Now you need data, Skye.
Well,
You
no,
can't
there
just
is
say,
data.
I can say mine without
There,
data.
there was
you
data.
Can't say yours without data.
There was data. Did you ever see the film Waiting for Superman?
No.
It's a documentary about
Waiting for Godot.
the education system.
yeah.
And they had a stat in there showing average American high school students' performance in, I think, math and science going, and education in general compared to other countries going down. But the one thing that Americans rank highest in above every other country, high school students, self-esteem.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So the irony is we're doing worse and worse, but we feel better and better about ourselves. So we trust our judgment more when we actually statistically know less.
That's a good note to end on.
Oh, I'm feeling just a little bit sick, but at least we're back with our old friend Drew Dyck, who's here from Portland, Oregon. You can explore again to see if you can find a Christian in Oregon, but he says, yes, they are there. He's got cooler glasses and shorter hair. And he can have craft beer in the square while passing out chick tracts and telling people to not fear so much and don't vote for Donald Trump.
And eat more cheese.
And eat more cheese.
Remember, go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/PhilVischer.com, patreon.com/PhilVischer.com, and go to PhilVischer.com. Actually, I put a .com at the end of the Patreon address. That was completely wrong. Look on the screen, patreon.com/PhilVischer, and go to PhilVischer.com. The new website's up, and check out the Trump videos and all the other stuff. And we will see you next time.
The Phil Vischer podcast is produced by Phil Vischer Enterprises and recorded live at Jellyfish Labs Studios. This episode was edited by Jason Rugg and was fact-checked by absolutely no one. For more information, go to philvischer.com.